Michael in Missoula, Montana. Michael, what's on your mind?
Hi, Tom. I get a little alarmed when I hear these terms like voter suppression thrown around. And it seems to me, as a participant in our democratic process, that I want those people that are voting before and after me to be U.S. citizens, to make sure that they're eligible to vote.
They are, Michael, and when they're not, they can go to prison for it. And the thing that is really... Okay, I got it. The thing that is really voter suppression, and there is real voter suppression going on right now in the United States, is, for example, in North Carolina, you have the city of Boone, which has a university. It's a college town, right? Very progressive. Lots of young students, lots of young people. Now, statewide in North Carolina, 1,500 people per voting precinct is the standard. That's the state recommended average. But the Republicans this week voted to close two of the three, including the one on campus, two of the three places where students could vote. And the remaining one is way out in the country. It is serving 9,300 people, and it's got a parking lot with 35 slots in it. That's called voter suppression. In the second largest college town in North Carolina, there was a young African-American this was a traditionally black college, young African-American fellow who had been living in that town for 4 years, for three years and change, going to school, who wanted to run for city council. He says, I'm going to live here the rest of my life. This is my town now. The Republicans got together, they control the voting commission, and they said, no, you can't run. You are not a resident, which means also you can't vote. In fact, they're saying that of all the black people in that black college. In fact, they're planning on saying that of all the students statewide. That's voter suppression. Pure and simple. George Bush spent $74 million in 7 years and ordered all 100 of his federal attorneys to make their top priority finding and prosecuting cases of people who are not citizens who are voting. Now, on its surface, respectfully, I don't remember the name of the caller, but, respectfully, you're an idiot if you think that anybody, just seriously think about that. Just imagine this argument that these guys are making, that somebody who is not a citizen is going to risk 2, 3, 4, 5 years in prison in order to show, and somebody who's not a citizen and is hiding from the authorities is not only going to risk years in prison for voting illegally, but is also going to risk deportation by showing up at a polling place, an official government facility, and presenting phony ID. Or presenting no ID whatsoever and simply saying, yes, I'm a citizen, I'd like to vote. Are you really so stupid? And I genuinely mean this. It requires an astounding, I don't usually engage in ad hominems, but I don't see any other way to explain this. A person would have to be genuinely stupid to think that, this is like, for example, what possible benefit are you going to get if you're not a citizen from voting? Just one guy, right? Maybe somebody pays you $50. It's like if I walked up to somebody who wasn't a citizen, in other words, being brought to the attention of the police could cause them to not only go to jail for whatever they're doing, but also be deported. You walk up to somebody who's not a citizen and say, if I give you $50, will you go into a 7-Eleven and shoplift a candy bar? Because the penalties are actually worse for voter fraud than they are for shoplifting. Do you think that illegal alien, that undocumented worker, will show up and steal that candy bar? What if you gave him $100? I still don't think they'd do it. And walking into a 7-Eleven is nothing like walking into a voter place where you are saying to a representative of the United States government, I am who I am. There is no voting fraud in the United States. More people die from televisions falling on their head than commit voting fraud in the United States. With all those tens of millions of dollars that George Bush spent, with 93 federal attorneys, U.S. prosecutors out of the 100 that we have, making this their top priority, and 7 of them being fired because they refused to. They said, we've got actual crime we should be prosecuting. With all of that, Bush was able to find a couple of hundred people who voted illegally. And most of them were not voting illegally because they weren't citizens. There were only a few dozen of those people. Nationwide, over a 7-year period, most of the people who were voting illegally because they lived in states where if you've ever been in prison for the rest of your life, you can't vote. And they didn't realize that. They thought once they got out of prison, they could vote. And that was only a few hundred people. Because again, you'd have to be stupid to think that somebody who has been in prison is going to risk going back to prison just to vote. This is phony hysteria, and anybody who buys it is plain old, flat out stupid.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.
And I'm just sick and tired of tolerating stupid people calling into this program and say, oh, I'm so scared that somebody who's not a citizen is going to vote. Come on, get a life.